the same journey to find the way home. And I think we need each other. Why don't you take my hand and let's walk together? Take my hand and try. It's a long road, we can walk it together. Take my hand and try.
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Now. I'm your host, Marty Carroll, along with my wife and co-host, Michelle. We are so glad that you chose to join us. Excited to be with you once again tonight. Just let you know that we are both through counseling here in West Monroe, have practice over on North 7th Street. Any way we can serve you in that capacity, we would love to. So just give us a call. Our phone numbers are listed on the screen. Give us a call, set an appointment, and we would love to talk to you about that. Also, you can keep up with us on Facebook at Blind Sighted. That's BlindSighted on Facebook, and there we post the show. We'll load up the video of the show, and we also put out thoughts every day, just inspirational things and things maybe you can put into practice, little nuggets that might be of help. So just love for you to use that as a resource for you. Hopefully we put some things up there that will be of service to you. So if there are any topics you'd like for us to discuss, also put that on Facebook or give us a call and let us know. We would love to be able to discuss some things that would be of benefit to you. We'll try to bring something each week that is helpful. So if you got any ideas, let us know. We'd love to tackle it for you. So tonight we're going to talk about kind of a combination of things, really, because they're so closely connected. And you know, I'm thinking that the show's just going to turn into confession. It's kind of the way this is feeling.
Well, it is called Life Now.
It is, isn't it? It is. That's right. Life Now. And the last couple of shows, you know, we talked about some different things. We talked about some narcissism in relationships, and we talked about fear and you know, just different things in life and the way to manage that. And it's so funny the way life plays out, in that, you know, you get through talking about something or giving out some advice, some ideas on how to manage that, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a position where you're fighting it. Yeah. And
You mean one of those practice what you preach situations?
One of those practice what you preach situations.
I love
Absolutely.
those.
And it's great because you're so quick to identify them. I love that. That's one of the things I love about my wife, is she identifies those things very quickly and brings it to my attention.
Isn't that what wives do?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's our job. We
Well,
got to keep you straight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to help me keep the eye on the ball. And not miss out.
Yeah.
So, you know, so we're going to talk about a little bit about the situation that I found myself in, and kind of connect the dots here, talking about hurts in life and anger, because they're so closely related. You know, the old REM song, "Everybody hurts sometimes." It's just going to be a part of life. You're going to go through something
Right.
that's going to create some kind of pain. You know, whether it's divorce, whether it's the loss of somebody or something, misunderstandings, people saying things and doing things maliciously, intentionally to hurt. You know, we know that exists, especially in the world today. But there's lots of hurt out there. You know, and there's an old saying that hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
And that's so true, because, you know, once you've experienced some type of wound, you've experienced some type of hurt, we have this tendency to live out of that wound instead of moving into a place of healing where God desires us to be, and you know, that's what He desires to bring into our life. We end up staying in that hurt place and turning into somebody that we never thought we would be, acting in ways that we never thought we would act, saying things we never thought we would say. You get the picture, and I know a lot of you know what we're speaking about, those deep inner hurts that you just don't know what to do with. So And that's oftentimes what's behind anger. So a lot of times when you see somebody in a state of anger, it's usually one of three things that are in the driver's seat for that anger. It could be hurts, it could be fears, or it could be frustrations.
Or all three.
Or some combination of all three, in which most of the time it is. But people, they don't stop quick enough to, break it down. They feel the anger, but they don't necessarily know what they're angry about. Or they think they know what they're angry about, the situation, but they haven't identified quite what actually happened and what they experienced through whatever they went through. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm talking, getting too wound up with it. So, so hurts, fears, and frustrations. And we've touched on fears that people deal with, and what that looks like, and ways to overcome that. So tonight we want to spend a little time talking about the hurts that and what can happen. So throughout Scripture, you see different people in situations, and you don't necessarily see or hear in the languaging of it that their feelings got hurt.
Right.
But you can look at the situation and go, "Wow, that must have been painful."
Yeah.
I think about one of the stories that comes to mind, right off the bat is the story of Joseph and his father grieving over Joseph, thinking he was dead, and the sadness that he experienced. He was hurt, and then to discover the truth of what happened with Joseph and his brothers had to inflict even some more pain. The father of the prodigal son, there was probably pain involved with his son, wanting his inheritance and leaving. So you've got many things you can look at and interpret that as them going through some type of hurt. And the important thing is, what do we do? What do we do when we find ourselves in that hurting place? So that's kind of what we want to explore. So I guess I need to start with my confession and what I went through. Just a few days ago. You want to elaborate on it, any? You got anything you want to ask? You've already elaborated enough, haven't you?
This is your story.
Well, it just was this Thursday. Last Friday was my birthday, and so we had a lot going on that day between seeing patients and our oldest grandson was born the day before my birthday, but we were celebrating his birthday that evening, the evening of my birthday. And so there was just a lot happening. And, and through it all, I have to confess, I kind of felt like I kind of got lost in the shuffle. And I had some other things, going on in my mind, some things, dealing with, trying to figure out. And don't get me wrong, loved celebrating a grandson's birthday and being there, and we had a blast with him, and just see him all light up, that was a gift in and of itself. But somewhere along the lines, I just felt like I got lost in the shuffle, and I began to feel a little disappointed. Like, wait a minute, nothing. What about me? I felt like I was 10.
You were acting like you were 10.
I was acting like I was 10. So I'm having these feelings of, what about me? What about me? It's my birthday too. And then in my head, I'm fighting it going, I shouldn't feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? This is ridiculous. I need to work this out. What am I, who does this? I'm 49. I'm not 10. So anyway, the more I thought about it and the more I'm fighting inside myself, the more quiet I get, and I begin to get edgy, get a little irritable. Would you say, was that a good word?
Pouty.
Pouty? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there was probably some pouting going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was obvious you were disturbed. It was obvious.
Thank you.
And we won't go into any more detail, but it was obvious.
It's obvious I was quite disturbed.
Yeah.
And the icing on the cake, the proverbial birthday cake, was...
Yes, because there was no actual birthday cake for him on his birthday.
That's right.
It was
It
our
showed up.
grandson's birthday cake.
Right.
Which we had already agreed to a week in advance.
That's right.
That we were going to celebrate our grandson's birthday on his birthday
Mm-hmm.
and celebrate his birthday, Marty's birthday, the day after. But for whatever reason, when that day came, the 10-year-old showed up instead of the 49.
I felt like the grandson was actually older than I was that day because he was in a much better mood.
Yes.
He enjoyed himself.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, icing on the cake was we have a bed that we put. They were spending the night with us that night, and we have a bed that we pull out sofa that they sleep on. And I was putting some memory foam over it, and I went to get that memory foam because we keep it stored somewhere else. And went to get it, and I come walking in the house, and somebody had placed something right in my pathway. And that doesn't work well for someone who can't see very good to start with. And so I walked right into it, and I had my arm full of queen-size memory foam, and I almost did a face plant, tripping over the baby's back. And that did it. That did it. And Michelle comes in and says, "Are you frustrated about something?" I said, "No, not at all. Not at all. I'm fine." But had to work through it. I just had to get alone and begin to pray and try to identify exactly what I was feeling, because at the time I had so much going on in my head. I just wasn't sure. And my lovely wife comes in and begins to ask just exactly the right questions to help me find the emotion that was really going on, because I'm terrible at that. I can talk about emotional principles and thought processes and the way the brain works and behavior. I can talk about that all day long. But when it comes into my own personal life, sometimes trying to identify the emotion and what I'm feeling is difficult. Honestly, I just have to be honest with you. It is, because I'm a thinker. I'm a analytical, break it down, process the tar out of it. And sometimes I'm not real good at identifying my own emotions. But she helps me do that. She is wonderful at asking me the right questions and making me stop and making me slow down and go, okay, get out of your head. What are you feeling? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And she nailed it. So, across the board. And it was. And so I had to spend some time repenting and some time praying, and I felt better the next day. So nobody is immune to going through a situation like that.
And I think that's the most important thing. You said it at the beginning of the show. We're not exempt from feeling these emotions. Mm-hmm. The question is, are you going to stay there? We walk through the hurts of life, and granted, getting our feelings hurt over your birthday not being celebrated is not the same kind of hurt as a spouse walking out and leaving you. The devastation of that kind of hurt and rejection is quite deep. And so we're not trying to make light of the fact that, that kind of hurt is on the same level as, being upset about a birthday party.
Not at all.
But the point is simply this. We're going to face those things in life. And again, as we say on every single episode of our show, is what are you going to do? And for you, and this is where I've come to appreciate who you are in the Lord, is because you don't tend to stay in those places. And even if I don't bring it to your attention, you go get along with the Lord like I do, and you pray about it, and you let the Lord speak to you about it, and you don't stay there. And, and flipping it back on me, it would have been very easy for me as your wife to just look at you and put my hands on my hip and say, really? Really? Should I walk through my day and tell you what I've been through today, and then to have you in this frame of mind acting like a 10-year-old tonight?
Right.
But I didn't. I allowed you that time, okay? And then I apologized. I'm sorry that your birthday wasn't all that you anticipated it to be. I'm sorry for that. And I walked out of the room and left him with those thoughts and left him with the Lord. Because
Right.
I promise the Lord can do a much better job of correction than I can. And so I just left him alone with the Lord. And I went and washed dishes and started cleaning up and, you know, all those wifely duties that we have to do before we can go to bed. and so I think even by bedtime, I still was giving you your space. And by the next morning, you were fine. But, you know, the question is just simply, you know, look, life is messy. It just is. Life is messy. And you're going to face these things. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Yeah, sometimes things are just not going to happen the way you wish they would or you think they should.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
And you know, from, you know, any perspective, some of the more heart-wrenching things, you know, like divorce and death, it's just sometimes we don't expect it.
Right.
You know, relationships, you invest yourself in a relationship, mind, body, spirit,
Yes.
For years, and then it not end or it not go the way that you think that it would.
Right.
It should, even by doing all the right things yourself. You're like, this is not where I planned on being.
Right.
And it's real easy to sink into a very dark place, you know, on the heels of something like that. And it's real easy to let those emotions just take over. And that's that deep place where that stronghold begins to get built.
Yes.
If you wallow around
When
in
you stay
that,
there,
or when you
right.
stay there, and you allow all these thoughts, nobody loves me, nobody will ever
Yep.
love me, I feel rejected, I feel abandoned, things are never going to get better. You know, all these thoughts, and you know the thoughts that we're speaking of, because we've all had them at some point. And when we let those things take over, you know, and they get into the mind, they get into our brain, it goes into a certain part of the brain that if you allow it to stay there for, you know, just a very short amount of time, it turns into an endless loop.
Right.
And it's like the automatic negative thoughts we talk about. When one shows up, they're like ants at a picnic, they all show up. And then you get completely overwhelmed and immersed in this negativity and this woe is me. And it can begin to create vain imagination. You know, you're creating something in your head that hasn't even happened yet or may not even be true. You begin to awfulize, where like you awfulize the whole situation. And you begin to believe things about, you know, maybe what you've been through that just aren't true, that lead you down this emotional path that is so destructive.
You know, and the simple story of your birthday, and it would, because typically this is how the enemy works against us. You know, you got your feelings hurt, your birthday wasn't all you anticipated, and so, you know, we make jokes about, you know, you acting like a 10-year-old and pouting, but, you know, it would have been real easy for you to go, allow your mind to go to that place of, well, my wife just doesn't love me. You know, she didn't plan a big birthday party for me on my birthday.
I don't think I had that thought.
No, I hope you didn't.
No, I
but
don't think so.
but you know, for some people they do. You know, the enemy's real good at taking us down those rabbit holes.
Right.
And like you said, the thoughts that come in, then we start believing them, and then what happens is we start behaving on those beliefs, and those beliefs aren't even true.
That's right.
You know, we start, and we see this so much when we do marriage counseling with couples. When you just get down to the nuts and bolts of it, and you just boil everything else away, and you say, what are you believing about this person? And when they start speaking those things, and even sometimes as they speak it, and they're going, wait, do I really believe that? I mean, what? If I believe that, I wouldn't be married to that person. But we will convince ourselves of terrible negative things about our spouse when we get our feelings hurt.
Right. And one of the things, you know, we always teach in marriage conferences and so forth is one of the principles is believe the best about your spouse.
Right.
You know, no, I don't care what the situation is and how you may, you know, feel hurt or whatever. Never immediately jump to this was intentional, this was malicious, this was, don't, be careful. Always believe the best about them until it's proven otherwise.
Right.
Because if you begin to believe the worst, then it's going to begin to affect how you interact with them. and how you speak to them. And it's just what you're saying. We can begin to think, oh, I'm unloved. I feel unloved. So you begin to live unloved. And that violates God's law of love.
And I'm just speaking from experience, because that night in question, when I went to wash the dishes,
That night.
you know, the thought crossed my mind, man, I'm so unappreciated. I mean, I had a lot on my plate that day. I mean, I really did. And there's just, any given day, there is just a number of things that I'm responsible for. And that particular day just happened to be overwhelming, because there was a birthday party going on, and there was responsibilities on my part, and then we brought all 3 grandsons home with us, and so I'm trying to get them bathed and fed and put to bed, and, you know, bedtime stories and all of this. And then to have a pouting husband on top of that. I go in there and I'm slinging dishes and I'm saying, I'm so unappreciated. And then immediately I stop myself. And, you know, this is not something that 10 years ago I wouldn't have done that. I couldn't have immediately switched gears like that. But because I've learned to do this over the years, I practice this over and over and over and over. When those negative thoughts come, I can stop myself and say, wait a minute, do I really believe that?
Right.
Do I really believe that I'm unappreciated?
Right.
No. In this moment, yes, it might appear that there's some unappreciation. Just like on your part, in that moment, it did appear that I didn't give a flip about your birthday. But then when you really start digging down and you say, do I really believe that?
Right.
And the answer is no. Of course I don't feel unappreciated, because you go out of your way all the time to tell me and show me how much you appreciate the things that I do as your wife and as a grandmother and as a mother and all of those roles that I play. And
yeah, one moment doesn't define the whole.
yes.
You know, the whole.
Yeah.
Because we have a marriage that has a lot of appreciation and gratitude in it. We make sure of that.
Yes.
So yeah, that's absolutely right. All of it's in that one moment. You can begin to feel one way that could dictate the whole thing.
Yes.
So we have to stop ourselves. It's a battle.
It is.
It's a battle.
It is.
But
And the thing is, you gotta want it.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta want to dig deeper, because it's real easy to stay in that place, to stay angry. It's real easy to stay in that place where you feel unappreciated or you feel unloved. It's easy to stay there. It's easy to have a pity party.
Sure is.
It takes some work to stop feeling sorry for yourself and say, wait a minute, you know, I'm going to dig down to the root of this, and do I really believe what I'm feeling right now? Do I really, you know, believe that that's truth? And most of the time, if you'll stop and ask yourself that question, the answer is no.
Right. Right. Because the enemy likes to place subtle lies. You know, it's just got just enough of the truth in it to make you believe it. But at the heart of it, there's a lot of deception.
Yes.
A lot of deception. And unfortunately, we live in a very emotionally driven world because it's all about what I feel. It's all about what I feel. I feel unappreciated. I feel rejected. I feel, you fill in the blank. And people go with it. And, you know, the word is real clear. You know, we can have emotion. In fact, the word tells us, take anger, for instance, be angry, but sin not.
Right.
Don't do something stupid. Just, you know, be angry, but process it out, figure it out. He's given us sound minds to reason. In Isaiah, the first chapter, he says, come, let us reason together. We have to implement rationale and rational thinking along with these emotions. Otherwise, you know, that's that combination of grace and truth. Grace, you know, you're going to have these feelings and so forth, but then you've got to think through it. And we don't do a real good job of slowing down. You know, this is where the pace in which society moves and the pace at which we are living interferes with our ability to communicate and identify, you know, the emotional temperature, you know, of our house or where we're at individually, because we're living at such a fast pace. We don't like to stop, slow down, and go, okay, wait a minute. Why am I feeling this way? That's ridiculous. It's just, I shouldn't feel that way. You have to get in there and go, well, why am I feeling this way? Is this based on a lie? Is it based on truth? Do I need to change what I think in order to change, my emotional reaction to these things? And it takes work.
Yes, it does.
It takes a disciplined mind to get in and do it, because we want what we want when we want it. We want to justify ourselves with all these feelings, justify our actions with all these feelings, and be okay. And forget the rest of the world. I'm going to do what I want to do because this is the way I feel. And that can get us in a lot of hot water.
Mm-hmm. We see it almost on a daily basis, too.
Yeah.
People get in hot water because because they live their whole life based on emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And emotions, they're God-given.
Mm-hmm.
They're to help us determine if things are good or bad. And then again, we've got to look at what we're believing, and what's driving that emotion.
Right.
So next time you're feeling angry, stop for a minute and go, okay, what am I really experiencing here? Am I hurt? Am I frustrated? Or am I fearful? And usually you will be able to identify if you just take a minute. And then, obviously, you've got to get alone with the Lord and pray through this. Seek out the truth of the Word. If you're having these weird thoughts that are telling you lies, then you need to get in the Word and find out what God says about you and what God says about the situation, because it's all covered in the Word.
Right.
And we've got to have our thoughts line up with His thoughts in order to keep us on track. It's a challenge. So slow down, seek the truth, and then if you need to go apologize and seek that forgiveness and repentance, do that. And move on. Get out of the sand pit or the quicksand, because that's what it feels like. You'll just sink deeper and deeper and deeper into that emotional state, and that gets to be a dark place. It
does. I just really want to stress the importance of naming the emotion. Again, I'm a big, I just think it's really important, because when you get down to the root of it and you can name the emotion, now you can do something with it. Now you can get to the meat of it and say, okay, do I really believe that?
That's right. That's right. Hurt's a part of life. It's going to happen. Be prepared for it and deal with it when it comes. Don't sit there and let it get the best of you. We are overcomers. We are conquerors in Christ Jesus, and we can do all things through Christ. Thank you so much for joining us again on Life Now. Look forward to hearing from you. You guys have a great week.
Why don't you take my